When Jesus came into the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do men say that I am?" They answered, "Some say John the Baptist, some Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answered and said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Jesus answered and said to him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I also say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. And I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." What a moment for Peter. He had just received a personal commendation from the Son of God in front of all his peers, affirming his revelation from the Father about Jesus' true identity. Imagine how Peter must have been feeling in that moment. Today we would call this moment a mountaintop experience. A time when we feel so close to God and so in line with His calling on our lives that it stands out to us as a spiritual high. These spiritual highs are what motivate us in our walk with the Lord to keep moving forward. They fuel the fires of our passion in pursuit of intimacy with God. If only these spiritual highs lasted forever. If only we could stay on the peak of the mountaintop in our Christian lives. But unfortunately, what goes up must come down. It's the nature of any dynamic relationship, and Peter's experience is no different. After highly esteeming Peter for his declaration of faith, Jesus began to show to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things from the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and be raised the third day. Then Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, "Far be it from you, Lord, this shall not happen to you." But he turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan, you are an offense to me, for you are not mindful of the things of God, but of the things of men." Okay, wait. Did Jesus just call Peter Satan? It's no typo. You see, Peter was interfering with Jesus' mission. According to Acts 2:23, the death and resurrection of Jesus was all according to God's determined plan and foreknowledge. In other words, Jesus was always on a mission to the cross. It was God's plan all along, and anything that tried to stand in the way of that plan was in direct violation of God's will. Though Peter undoubtedly desired only to protect his master, Jesus was making it emphatically clear to Peter and the other disciples that anything in defiance of God's will was from the devil. By expressing his opposition to Jesus' prediction, Peter had become a mouthpiece for Satan, and Jesus sternly called him out on it. Though accepting Jesus' prediction of his death would no doubt be uncomfortable and painful, Jesus requires complete and total commitment from Peter, and to sacrifice his own personal comfort so that God's purposes may be accomplished. Jesus charges us all with this exhortation in his following words: "If anyone wants to come with me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life because of me will find it." If you want to follow Jesus, you have to give up your commitment to self-preservation, to self-gratification, to self-centeredness. The only way to get close to God is through Jesus, not through you. Listen to what he says. Do what he did. Be like him. Jesus is the way. To deny yourself and take up your cross is to say, self is not in charge. God is. It can happen so quickly. One moment Peter is standing on the mountaintop of spiritual life, and the next he's tumbling down into what we might call a spiritual valley. It just reflects our human tendency to lean on our own understanding instead of trusting in the Lord with all of our heart. Jesus' charge to deny self and take up our cross is recorded in all three synoptic gospels. But my favorite is Luke's recording. Jesus gives further detail, saying, "If anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. You see, spiritual life is not about pursuing mountaintop experiences. To really follow Jesus requires moment-by-moment decisions that will take you up and down mountains, but always lead you closer to God in the end. God has just as much to teach us in the valleys as He does on the mountaintops. I'll leave you with a quote from a great commentator on this subject. Following Jesus doesn't just mean walking behind Him, but taking the same road of sacrifice and service that He took.